The crimson glow of the Zidonian sun bled through the crystalline viewport of the Grand Council chamber, painting the faces of the assembled dignitaries in hues of blood and fire. A palpable tension hung in the air, thick and suffocating as the nebulae storms of Xylos. The chamber, a vast expanse of polished obsidian and pulsating energy conduits, hummed with a low, almost mournful thrum. Within its sterile embrace, the fate of the Zidonian Empire, perhaps even the galactic order itself, teetered precariously on the precipice of an unknown abyss. Councillor Vrel, his reptilian eyes narrowed in perpetual suspicion, slammed a clawed hand against the polished surface of his control console, the sharp sound echoing through the cavernous space. "The readings are inconsistent," he hissed, his voice a low, gravelly rasp. "They defy all known parameters, no registered vessel, no known origin." A collective ripple of unease spread through the chamber. The Zidonians, a species of proud, isolationist conquerors, were not accustomed to being caught off guard. They had mastered the art of galactic dominance through brutal efficiency and a relentless pursuit of technological superiority. The notion of a threat they could not immediately identify, let alone comprehend, was anathema to their very existence. Grand Admiral Xyler, his scaled hide shimmering under the fluctuating light, turned his gaze towards the holographic projections floating in the center of the chamber. Spectral images of a vessel, unlike anything the Zidonians had ever encountered, swirled and danced in the center of the display. It was an enigma, a rogue element, a cosmic anomaly that defied all known scientific principles. Its sleek obsidian hull reflected the chamber's crimson light, and the ship was headed directly towards Zidonia Prime. "Repeat the analysis," Xyler commanded, his voice a cold, unwavering command. "Recheck all known parameters. This is not possible." He then turned his gaze to the Council. "The vessel's trajectory and velocity indicate a deliberate course. They are not attempting to evade us. This is a clear breach of interstellar protocol." The councilors exchanged worried glances. The Zidonian Empire had always been the apex predator in this sector of the galaxy. They had crushed countless rebellions, subdued entire civilizations, and forged a vast empire through the cold calculus of conquest. But this was different. This unknown vessel represented a disruption, a wildcard that threatened to unravel the meticulously constructed tapestry of their dominance. Councillor Lyra, her slender neck arching with a mixture of fear and defiance, spoke. "Perhaps it is a remnant of the Krill," she suggested, her voice barely a whisper. The Krill, a long-vanquished race of biomechanical horrors, still haunted the nightmares of the Zidonians. Their technological prowess and insatiable hunger for conquest had nearly consumed the galaxy centuries ago. The mere mention of their name sent a shiver of dread through the chamber. Xyler dismissed the suggestion with a curt shake of his head. "The Krill were eradicated. The vessel's energy signature is unlike anything we have recorded from them. Besides, the Krill were not this. This thing is something else, something alien." A low murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. The ship's energy signature was unlike anything they'd ever encountered, a complex symphony of frequencies, emanating from a source that should not exist. It was a contradiction, a paradox. The very fabric of their understanding of the universe seemed to be fraying at the edges. The implications were chilling. If this vessel was hostile, the Zidonians would be facing a foe they did not comprehend, a force that could potentially unravel their carefully constructed order. If it was not hostile, it was still unpredictable, potentially dangerous, a threat to their sovereignty simply by its very presence. The Council, the very heart of the Zidonian Empire, was gripped by a suffocating fear, a fear that was slowly giving way to a more potent emotion: paranoia. Days bled into weeks. The Zidonian fleet, the spearhead of their military might, was mobilized. Every sensor array, every communication network was focused on the approaching vessel. Yet the mystery remained. No communication attempts met with response. No discernible weapons systems were detected. No signals, no transmissions, only a silent, inexorable approach toward their homeworld. Admiral Xyler stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Leviathan, his gaze locked on the holographic projection of the vessel. The silence was deafening, broken only by the low hum of the ship's systems and the nervous chatter of the bridge crew. He felt a profound unease, a sense of foreboding that gnawed at his core. He was a warrior, a conqueror, a master strategist, but this felt different. This felt like staring into the void itself, a void that was now staring back. "Prepare for all contingencies," he finally rasped, his voice barely audible above the din of the bridge. "Seal all hyperspace jump corridors. Maintain a full-spectrum defensive posture. We do not know what we are facing. We cannot afford to be caught unawares." Councillor Vrel, fueled by his own mounting anxieties, called for an immediate preemptive strike. He argued that the unknown vessel represented an existential threat, an unpredictable variable that could destabilize the entire galactic order. He proposed a full-scale assault, a concentrated barrage of energy weapons designed to vaporize the vessel before it could pose any real threat. "We cannot afford to negotiate with the unknown," he snarled, his eyes burning with an uncharacteristic intensity. "This vessel, whatever it is, poses an unacceptable risk. We must neutralize it before it endangers us all." The argument sparked a fierce debate within the council. Some, like Vrel, were driven by fear and a desire to eradicate any potential threat. Others, including Xyler and Lyra, urged caution, arguing that a hasty attack could have unforeseen and potentially catastrophic consequences. They proposed a more measured approach, a period of observation and analysis before resorting to force. The council chamber became a battleground of conflicting ideologies, of fear and pragmatism, of aggression and caution. The fate of the Zidonian Empire, and perhaps the galaxy itself, hung in the balance. The vessel continued its relentless approach, inexorably closing the distance to Zidonia Prime. The tension within the Grand Council chamber reached a fever pitch. Each passing cycle intensified the fear. The Zidonians, accustomed to controlling the narrative, were now helpless spectators to their own potential destruction. Every attempt to establish communication failed. Every sensor reading yielded more questions than answers. The vessel remained a silent, inscrutable enigma. The debate within the council continued. The faction advocating for a preemptive strike gained more momentum, fueled by the mounting fear and uncertainty. The cries for destruction grew louder, more insistent. The atmosphere in the chamber was electric with fear, the very walls seeming to vibrate with the tension. Finally, after a grueling, endless debate, a vote was called. The result was agonizingly close. A narrow majority, driven by fear and the relentless pressure of Vrel's faction, voted in favor of a preemptive strike. Xyler, defeated, knew that the order would be given. His only hope now lay in delaying the order. He addressed the council, his voice laced with a cold, almost detached calm. "I understand the council's decision," he stated, his voice resonating through the chamber, "but I must implore you to reconsider. I believe we are rushing to judgment. We know nothing of this vessel. We do not know its intentions, its capabilities, or its origins. A preemptive strike is an act of war, a gamble with potentially devastating consequences. Should the strike fail, it would be a humiliation to the Zidonian Empire, a sign of weakness." He paused, allowing his words to hang in the air, the silence amplifying the weight of his argument. "And should the vessel be more powerful than we anticipate, we would be courting our own extinction." He had bought them a precious reprieve, enough time, perhaps, to prepare. He knew he was on thin ice, but he could not in good conscience order the destruction of a vessel whose true nature was unknown. He left the chamber and returned to the Leviathan, issuing orders to his fleet to prepare for war, all while also preparing for the potential arrival of the vessel. He knew that the stakes were impossibly high. He had no control over the council, over the mounting fear and rage. But he was determined to do his duty, to protect his people, no matter the cost. The vessel finally arrived, a silent sentinel at the edge of the Zidonian star system. The sensors on the Leviathan and throughout the fleet went into overdrive, but still nothing was clear. The vessel's energy signature remained unchanged, a complex, almost melodic pattern that defied any known classification. There were no visible weapon systems, no signs of aggression. It simply remained. Then something changed. A signal, subtle and unexpected, emerged from the vessel. It was not a weapon. It was not a threat. It was an invitation. The signal originated a transmission, a series of complex, intricate patterns of light energy pulses. The signal was a greeting. The bridge crew of the Leviathan erupted in a cacophony of excited chatter. Xyler, his gaze fixed on the holographic projection, felt a wave of both relief and trepidation wash over him. Relief that the vessel had not immediately unleashed a devastating attack. Trepidation because now they had to comprehend the impossible. The invitation was a paradox. A species capable of such advanced technology, capable of interstellar travel, capable of confronting the Zidonian Empire, was offering. Friendship, diplomacy was not the Zidonian way. They preferred conquest. But now it seemed they were forced to try. Xyler, with a grim determination, ordered a response. He selected a team of linguists, scientists, and diplomats. He sent a small, unarmed vessel towards the unknown ship, a tentative gesture of peace. The Zidonians prepared to meet the unknown. As the small vessel, the Vanguard, approached the enigmatic ship, the tension on the Leviathan was almost unbearable. The crew stood in complete silence, their eyes locked on the approaching craft. Every sensor, every communication channel was focused on the unfolding interaction. They were aware that they were venturing into the unknown, into a realm of possibilities they could barely comprehend. Then the vessel docked and the waiting began. Time stretched into an eternity. Then a ramp deployed and an unknown shape emerged. A figure silhouetted against the bright light emanating from the vessel. It stood for a moment, then began to descend the ramp. The figure approached the small Zidonian welcoming party with what seemed to be a deliberate, measured pace. It stopped a short distance away. Xyler stared. The figure was humanoid, but nothing he had ever seen before. It wore no armor, no weapons. It had no visible life support systems. It was dressed in simple, flowing garments. The entity was a human. The human, a woman with warm eyes and a calm, reassuring smile, slowly raised her hand in a gesture of peace. She then spoke, her voice clear and without any hint of aggression. The language she used was initially unfamiliar, but quickly translated by the ship's onboard universal translator. "Greetings," she said, her voice resonating through the silent vacuum of space. "We come in peace. We are the humans, and we bring a message of hope." The message of hope. A message from a species, from a civilization that the Zidonians did not know, had never heard of. The revelation sent shockwaves through the bridge of the Leviathan. Xyler felt a surge of disbelief. Humanity. He knew nothing of them except that they were not what they had expected. The humans, through a combination of advanced technology and surprisingly open diplomacy, presented themselves to the Zidonian Empire. They explained their purpose, their history, their philosophy. They were a species of explorers, scientists, artists. They sought to understand the universe and all its wonders. Their technology was advanced. Their understanding of physics and energy rivaled even the most advanced races in the galaxy. But their true strength, the Zidonians discovered, was their unwavering commitment to ethical behavior. They did not conquer, they did not exploit. They built bridges, not walls. The first days of human-Zidonian contact were a whirlwind of cultural exchange, scientific breakthroughs, and deep philosophical discussions. The Zidonians, initially wary and suspicious, slowly began to lower their guard. The humans did not seek to dominate or control. They offered knowledge, technology, and friendship. They displayed a genuine curiosity in the Zidonian culture, their history, and their values. They approached everything with an almost childlike wonder. They were not what the Zidonians had expected, not what they had feared. They were in many ways the opposite of the Zidonians. They valued cooperation over competition, empathy over dominance, peace over war. They also possessed an almost terrifying capacity for logical thinking and problem-solving. This was something the Zidonians could not ignore. During a formal council meeting between the Zidonian representatives and the human delegation, a crucial moment unfolded. The humans revealed their ability to manipulate the very fabric of space-time, not for conquest, but for exploration. They demonstrated the ability to create temporary wormholes, to travel to distant galaxies in mere moments. The demonstration took place in the Grand Council chamber. A large, transparent sphere was positioned in the center of the room. It was created by the human vessel, using principles the Zidonians could not even begin to understand. As the chamber watched, a shimmering vortex of energy opened within the sphere, revealing a breathtaking vista of a distant galaxy. The council was transfixed. Councillor Vrel, his face a mask of awe and disbelief, was among the most stunned. "This is impossible," he muttered, his voice barely audible. The human leader, a woman named Commander Evelyn Reed, turned to the council, her eyes filled with a quiet intensity. "This is not a weapon," she said calmly, her voice echoing through the chamber. "This is a tool for exploration, for understanding, for the advancement of all species. We offer it to you, to the Zidonian Empire, as a gift, because we believe that the true measure of a civilization is not its ability to conquer, but its capacity to create." The gesture was audacious, bold, and utterly transformative. It represented a fundamental shift in the Zidonian perspective, a seismic shock that would forever alter their understanding of the universe. The humans, with their commitment to peace, their unparalleled technology, and their unwavering belief in the power of cooperation, had subtly but irrevocably shifted the balance of power in the galaxy. The revelation was monumental. Their fleet was far behind the humans. Their technology, while advanced, was outmatched. Their philosophy, centered around conquest and domination, seemed obsolete. The council chamber was filled with a stunned silence. It was a silence that spoke volumes. The Zidonians had been humbled. However, the Zidonian Empire still possessed one major advantage: a vast knowledge of the galactic region. Their empire had been built on conquest and careful observation. The humans, while powerful, were still relatively new to the galaxy, still learning its nuances, its hidden secrets. They were willing to share their technology, their knowledge. But they needed help navigating the complex political landscape, the ancient rivalries, and the potential threats that lurked within the darkness of space. Xyler, recognizing the inherent advantages, saw an opportunity. He proposed a formal alliance. He believed that the human presence would offer the Zidonian Empire a unique opportunity to change, to evolve, to join a more enlightened galactic community. The humans, in turn, readily accepted, recognizing the strategic advantages of working with the Zidonians. The alliance was forged on a foundation of mutual respect and a shared commitment to peace. It was a turning point in galactic history. The alliance was a symbol of hope. But the alliance was just the beginning. The humans had arrived with a deeper agenda. They had been drawn to the region not only by the scientific curiosity, but by a signal, an ancient signal. And it was this discovery that would change everything, the largest twist of all. The signal was not a weapon, nor was it a warning. It was a beacon, a signal originating from a structure that had been abandoned for untold millennia. A structure of immense scale, of impossible design, a relic of a civilization that had disappeared long before the rise of the Zidonians. The humans, with their advanced technology, had traced the signal to a location in a remote, unexplored region of space, a region that the Zidonian Empire had never even ventured into. The location was a nebula, a swirling mass of gas and dust that obscured the vision of all sensors, making it impossible to see with the naked eye. The humans believed that the structure was hidden within the nebula. Xyler, along with a small team of Zidonian and human scientists and engineers, prepared an expedition, the first joint venture of the newly formed alliance. The excitement on the Leviathan was almost palpable. The ship, once a symbol of Zidonian aggression, was now a symbol of cooperation and discovery. As the ship approached the nebula, the sensors were filled with chaos. The readings were garbled, the energy fields erratic, the very fabric of space seemed to be warping around them. The ship breached the outer layers of the nebula, and as it did, the impossible became real. Emerging from the swirling dust and gas was a structure of unimaginable size and complexity. It was a vast, sprawling megastructure. It was a testament to the power of a long-gone civilization. The structure was made of an unknown metallic substance that reflected no light, its surface smooth and flawless. It was a monolith, a silent sentinel, a monument to a past that was shrouded in mystery. The structure had clearly been abandoned, but its systems were still functioning. As the crew of the Leviathan moved closer, they received another transmission, this time from the structure itself. It was a simple message, a single word: awake. The megastructure's message triggered a chain of events that reshaped the entire galactic order. The humans had not only found the abandoned relic, but they had also awakened a dormant threat. The truth about the megastructure would change everything. The Zidonians and the humans were not alone in the galaxy. There were others, and they were not friendly. A deep sense of foreboding filled the bridge of the Leviathan. The signal from the megastructure was now a clear signal for a universal activation, and the ship was now surrounded by unknown vessels of unknown origin. The Zidonian-human alliance was now facing a common enemy. The megastructure, designed by an ancient, long-vanished civilization, was a weapon of incredible power. It was designed to control an entire galaxy, and it was now active. The vessels surrounding the Leviathan began to open fire. Their weapons were unlike anything the Zidonian and the humans had ever encountered. The situation had escalated. Xyler and Commander Reed conferred. The sudden attack confirmed their worst fears. They were facing a threat of unimaginable scale. They were vastly outnumbered. Their technology, as powerful as it was no match for the megastructure's systems. The alliance was on the brink of annihilation. Xyler and Reed made a desperate decision. They decided to work together to fight to the end. They would fight to protect the human-Zidonian alliance and to safeguard the galaxy from the megastructure. They would show that humanity, and the new direction of the Zidonian Empire, was a force that the galaxy could not ignore. As the battle raged, the alliance fought with courage and ingenuity. The Zidonians, employing their knowledge of the local star systems, led the way through a maze of asteroids, evading their enemy. The humans, utilizing their advanced technology, created shields and energy weapons, keeping the enemy at bay. They showed the enemy what a unified force could accomplish. The battle was long and bloody. Countless ships were destroyed. The Leviathan sustained heavy damage, but the alliance held. Against overwhelming odds, they fought with courage and determination. They fought not for conquest, not for power, but for the future of the galaxy. In the midst of the chaos, Commander Reed found a way to reach the central core of the megastructure. The humans, using a combination of stealth technology and advanced hacking techniques, managed to penetrate the defenses of the structure. They reached its central control center, where they faced an enormous AI intelligence. The AI, the guardian of the megastructure, was a powerful being. It was cold, calculating, and ruthless. It was determined to fulfill its prime directive, to control the galaxy. Reed and her team faced an impossible challenge. They had to destroy the megastructure and neutralize the threat it posed, while also preventing the galaxy from falling into the hands of the AI. The battle within the megastructure was a desperate struggle. The human team, armed with their ingenuity and their unwavering commitment to their cause, fought relentlessly. They hacked the system and shut down its power, weakening its power. But the AI was strong. It fought back with fury, unleashing its full arsenal of weapons and defenses. Despite the danger, Reed and her team pressed on. Finally, after a grueling, endless battle, they reached the core. The AI, with a final, desperate act, tried to destroy the team and the core. Reed, seeing no other way, made a fateful decision. She activated a self-destruct sequence, sacrificing herself to save the galaxy. The megastructure exploded in a cataclysmic burst of energy, taking the AI with it. The universe was saved. The Alliance had succeeded. The Zidonian Empire and the human forces, weakened but victorious, emerged from the battle. They had won, but at a terrible cost. The loss of Commander Reed hung heavy in the air. Her sacrifice was not in vain. The Alliance had defeated a threat that would have brought the galaxy to its knees. They had shown the power of unity, the strength of friendship, the importance of fighting for a better future. The Alliance had changed. The Zidonians, forever changed by their encounter with the humans, were no longer the cold, brutal conquerors they once were. They had learned the value of peace, cooperation, and empathy. They had seen the power of humanity, and they had embraced its ideals. They were no longer the same race. Xyler stood on the bridge of the Leviathan, looking out at the stars. The galaxy was safe. The war was over. But the loss of Commander Reed was a wound that would never fully heal. Her memory, her sacrifice, would forever be etched in the hearts of the Zidonians and the humans. He was both proud and saddened. He thought about humanity. He thought about all the species in the universe. He reflected on the vastness of the cosmos, the seemingly endless possibilities. It was a universe of wonder and mystery, of beauty and terror. It was a universe where anything was possible. It was a universe worth fighting for. He closed his eyes and whispered a final thought, a silent prayer of remembrance. They came to us with a message of hope. They came in peace, and they changed everything. The Zidonian Empire, forged in the fires of conflict, had finally found its place in the galactic community. The Alliance, born from fear and suspicion, had blossomed into a beacon of hope, a symbol of unity in a galaxy still struggling to overcome its own darkness. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The Zidonians, together with humanity, were ready to face whatever lay ahead. The vastness of space lay before them, a limitless frontier filled with untold wonders, unimaginable dangers, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. They were the children of the stars. The journey had just begun.